right, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About This. My guest today is Veda Woods. Veda is the founder of Protect Us Kids Foundation. She's also an expert in cybersecurity. Welcome to the podcast, Veda. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on because we're going to be talking about first we're going to get into so I know your expertise in cybersecurity. So, one my first question I want to ask you is, what are some common types of cyber threats that individuals should be aware of?
I think the most common types that people probably don't pay much attention to are those that involve in regards to just checking everyday emails, um, especially being on social media in particular, DMing messages and information that's being collected on you when you're, browsing your various sites on social media. It's important for you to understand that every time you're online, there's something called data mining that's happening. And
Okay.
it's really in respect to, the social media platforms, how they make their money is through marketing and ads, right?
Okay.
And so it's important to understand that when you browse on the internet and you are going from different sites, et cetera, or you're receiving emails, based on information that you've put within certain sites because you want to subscribe,
Right.
or you're looking to purchase some services or products, that those particular sites are actually gathering personally identifiable information about you, in order to provide you the things, that all of a sudden pop up in your feeds. And you're like, oh,
Right.
I was just talking about that. I was just thinking about that.
I was,
I didn't
yeah.
actually know what, oh, that's great. And it influences you as a consumer to be able to purchase, but it also, unfortunately, lends a lot of your personal information being available to a
Right.
variety of companies and organizations, and not so good intended entities that are looking to take that information and be able to leverage that to do a lot of nefarious stuff online, such as taking your identity, using your identity to infiltrate other systems, and using your identity to actually steal information, to include money. So it's important for you to really just understand, what sites that you're using, what type of information is being shared.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's a variety of different avenues in terms of applications that you're using right now where you can kind of do the due diligence on your own,
Right.
and opt out. When you get those emails and messages, and you're going to sites, opt out if you don't want your information shared. You can request directly, to those particular vendors in respect to how you want your data collected. And you see a lot of this now when you
Yeah.
go online. It'll ask you, do you want to opt in? We're going to use your information for this. We're going to use your information for that. But it's, unfortunately, this is the times that we're in right now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really important for you to be very cognizant of how you want to use the internet and how you want to share that information. You don't have to put the information in. Sometimes there's a phone number,
Right.
and you can actually call the phone number if it's available on a particular site. But for a lot of people, that's too much work, and they rather just click, and get access because we're in real time. Everybody wants instantaneous access. You just have to understand that there's consequences of every action that you take. And you need to make a determination of whether or not how you feel comfortable, how much or how little information you actually want to put out there.
Yeah, that's what, because I noticed that like if you're doing any kind of research online, like for Instagram, for instance, if you soon as you start searching for certain things, then an ad pop up, and I'd be like, is somebody watching us? Or
Exactly.
because it's funny how it just pops up right there. Now, you said that there's a way. Now, when they take your personal information, what kind of information are they taking? Like do they get your address, your phone number,
Well,
your social security number, or
they get it from a variety of different ways. I think one of the for the audience in particular, you probably take for granted is on Facebook in particular.
yeah.
There are so many so-called games, that you can get access to, or quizzes, or surveys, or even leveraging, a lot of fun, AI type of tools to, put your face on something, or be able to morph, your face onto a different character or something like that. And it says, hey, we share it with your friends on Facebook. But in
Right.
order to get access to that, it always asks you to enter in your information, which is your name, your first
Right.
and last name, sometimes your date of birth. And it asks for specific information. And that
Mm,
information by itself, let's say your first name, might not necessarily be something that somebody wants. But when you put your personal information, your name, your email address, your last name, your date of birth,
mhm,
your credit card information, and you're answering questions, secret questions, what county were you born in, blah,
mhm.
blah, blah. Well, that's all personally identifiable information that you are readily providing because you want to get access to the
Right.
to the tool or to the service. And just understanding that those entities that are collecting your information may or may not, more often may share with other organizations and other businesses for marketing purposes so that their potential partners can actually market towards you their products and services in hopes that you will purchase that. But
Mm,
on the flip side of that, there's also people who skim the internet looking for personally identifiable information that they have gathered from other sites, and they are able to leverage technology just like we're able to leverage technology to kind of take a lot of disparate pieces of information and create profiles on you and be able to actually leverage your profile to be able to get access to your account information, to learn a lot about you. It doesn't really take a lot
right.
because people don't understand that the internet is just this big, huge repository of data. And we
Mhm.
have all this technology that's out here that's able to aggregate, meaning collect that information and create patterns out of that. And creating patterns out of that is really your digital footprint of who you are. And
Mm,
being humans, that's what we do. I mean, in order for us to remember our passwords,
right.
without the password keeper or tracker, we put things in that we think we can remember. Well, a lot of those
Mhm.
things are things that are personal to us, but also there are things that are kind of in our environment and just our very way of life. And you are repetitive as a human being in putting in information because it helps you recall.
Mm,
And unfortunately, when you do that, that's why it's important to change your passwords and have different types of passwords, and not use the same password across every single site. Because when you do that, it only takes one opportunity for someone to access your information, and then they can scour the internet using technology and tools and be able to readily pick up and use other tools to be able to hack into your accounts, hack into your Facebook, hack into your social media accounts. Because you as a human, you're just, hey, I know what the password is, but I don't have time to remember what all that stuff is, which
right.
is that's a different, completely separate topic. But why passwords aren't necessarily the best means in terms of trying to actually protect something. And that's why when you go to your bank now, you have multi-factor authentication, meaning it's going to ask you for your phone number so it can text you a code so you can put in addition to your password and all
Mm,
this other kind of stuff because it's attempts to actually, try to thwart anybody that's trying to get access to your account. If the password fails, then they need to have a secret code, and the only person that can get the secret code is you. But technology is moving quickly. It's just important for people, just to be very aware, right? You don't necessarily have your wallet open and you're walking down the street with money in your hand.
mm,
You use controls and measures to make sure that you protect that. So you have a purse, a wallet, you wear a fanny pack, you just, you tuck it in somewhere. You're doing things to protect your information in a physical sense,
right.
and things that are important to you in the physical world. You got to have that same mentality when you're on the internet. And I think that's where it gets kind of crazy because you feel like, well, it's just you on the internet. Hey, I got all this stuff in place.
Right.
In terms of my passwords, I'm just on this site. It's no big deal. But it actually is. Every time a site asks you for your name and your information, they're
Mm,
collecting data on you, and that data is replicated. So if I
mm,
want to actually do something and try to get a profile on you, I can just use open source tools that are readily available and be able to, get your social handle, a couple of things, name here and there, sites that you're on, and pull all types of identifiable information on you and create what we call a profile. And
mhm.
it's not hard to do because
Yeah,
again,
because there's a
that
lot
is
of there's a
it's
lot
in
of
the
fake.
library.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of yeah, because if you go on Instagram, there's a lot of people who are using other people's
Mhm.
names and faces as, like, for instance, celebrities.
Yeah.
They use a lot of celebrities fake their profiles to make it seem like that they're actually that person that you're talking
Mhm.
to. Because I know I get a lot of that stuff in my DMs where, let's say, Jay-Z pop up in
Mhm.
my DM. And I said, now I know Jay-Z ain't got time to be talking to me. As famous, as wealthy as this man, as busy as he ain't got time to be talking to me. So I know that ain't the real Jay-Z. But now they have, I see on Instagram or other social media platforms that they have those blue check marks
Mhm.
too with the fake accounts also.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's another way they're trying to you know, bribe people out of money or whatever by using these fake blue check marks as well.
Mhm.
So that must be something new because I've never saw that before until now.
Yeah, they got the blue fake check marks, and then they also have the deep fakes and AI. So
Mm-hmm.
you see a lot of what you perceive to be a celebrity speaking and talking, but it's actually not real. It's
Right.
artificial intelligence. It's a deep fake.
Mm-hmm.
You do that with people as well, and we're getting better and better. You know, just not even 5 or 6 years ago, you know, it wasn't quite. I mean, you could easily kind of tell because you know, the movement of the mouth and the eyes didn't really match, and it was some weirdness, but now it has been perfected and improved upon because innovation moves quicker than, you know, when we release something that's new, you know, people are continuously innovating, trying to get better, and the technology is innovating and improving upon itself. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's becoming harder and harder for a regular person to kind of decipher what they're looking at,
Right.
um, whether or not that's real or it's not real. And so you have that you have to be concerned with, not to include generative AI, which, you know, looks at voice data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing when you get a lot of those robocalls and you pick up the phone and you don't hear anything and you're saying hello, hello, and nobody's answering, and it's like a long pause and you hang up.
Right.
Be careful because some of those calls are actually attempts to actually record your voice,
Mm.
leverage your voice to be able to leverage to utilize AI to copy the tone, the sound, the enunciation, and be able to use that to get you to provide information to someone that you might think you're talking to, like your financial advisor
Yep.
or a family member. And you're providing information, and they will be able to take key pieces of information and
Mm-hmm.
again gain access to things that are important to you, whether that's your financial accounts, you know, access to your medical records, which is a nightmare
Mm-hmm.
within itself, because you got access to your medical information, you got access to everything. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just really important, you know, for people, you know, just to be cautious, you know, I'm not saying completely stop using technology because
Right.
that's possible we've already opened Pandora's box, but just, you know, using common sense,
Mm-hmm.
and being cautious and understanding if you're walking down the street in public, there's certain things you're just not gonna do,
Right.
because you're trying to protect those things that are important to you. It's the same when you're on the internet, right? You're
Yeah.
actually in a public place,
Yeah.
literally. It's just as virtual. And so
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that you are able to, you know, keep your information private. I advise people, you know, specifically, VPNs used to be really expensive. They're not anymore. A lot of the applications and software that you can put on your computers, like to protect your overall platform, you know, whether you're using, you know, a PC or you're using an Apple, etc. You can get these applications and they have built-in VPNs, or you can just go out and procure VPNs. Highly recommend that people leverage VPNs when they're on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you're not going to remember all the time. You know, you're using it, the freedom to be able to go to your bank, take care of your business, etc. And I just recommend for people to use virtual private networks to try
Right.
to minimize the risk as much as possible, for, you know, exposure, right? And we have to do that. And again, we do that in the physical world.
Right.
We make sure that we're not exposed to any type of, you know, nefarious activity might be coming our way. It doesn't prevent it. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
can still leverage a more, you know, increased control like a gun,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, to be able to get something from you. But you're going to do as much as you can, you know, to minimize that. Maybe you won't go out, you know, super late at night, or you're going groups, etc. You're doing all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
That same mindset has to be thought out when you're on the internet, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're leveraging the internet. You want to make sure that you're going into the settings of those applications when you
Mm-hmm.
download, especially people who like to download, which is practically everybody,
Yeah.
apps for the phone from Apple or from your Android to Google Play. When you download that, go into those apps and look for the security settings and
Mm.
enable those, right?
Mm.
Just don't download the app and start using it, right?
Right.
Go
Right.
in there and start looking to see what those security controls are and enable those. And then those apps that you don't hardly use, delete them. Delete them. Don't keep
Right.
them on your phone, right? Because again, when you download an app, you really don't know how your information is being used.
Mm,
And that person that developed, or company or organization that developed that app, they have access to your personal information. Absolutely.
mm-hmm.
Right. And so you have to go into and look to see what security settings. If it looks like they don't hardly have none in there, don't use the app. Right.
Mm,
Again, just using kind of common sense. Is,
right. Yeah, yeah, that's funny. They also doing another thing I noticed on these social media platforms is another way that people are trying to steal other they're another way that they're stealing other people identity is from using video clips.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that too. Like I had a video clip from a Chris Brown one time that came into my DM, somebody was trying to act like they was Chris Brown. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you got to use common sense. I knew it wasn't Chris Brown, but I'm like, now they doing this now. I'm saying to myself, I said, what else is
Exactly.
they gonna come up with, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm like, the person ain't talking to you. They just using a piece of video clip of a person like a Chris Brown or these are people that I had come in my DM or Bootsy,
Mm-hmm.
these video clips, and I'm like, and some people actually think they're actually the real people and
Mm-hmm.
come to find out they're really not, but
Exactly.
like you said, they use all kinds of things to try to get your information, to steal your account. My other question I was going to ask you, which I think you already mentioned, was about the passwords. Now, you should not have a password for every account, because I know a lot of people use the same because they can't remember,
Mm-hmm.
all these different accounts. So you're saying it's best to have a different password for
It's that
every.
it's
Yeah.
unfortunately it's best to have a different password,
Yeah.
a complicated password.
Mm-hmm.
People have a variety of different ways in how they do that. They have
Yeah.
password keepers, trackers that you can use,
Mm-hmm.
where the application will actually generate the password for you and associate it with whatever site that you're on and keep track of all those passwords.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't like this, but it's just the world that we're in. Google has
Yeah.
that feature as well. It automatically will pop up and say, hey, do you want to save your username and password? And Google will keep track of that. Understand something though. Again, when you enter in information,
Mm-hmm.
anything on the internet, there is an illusion of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing. I tell people that, and some people are like, oh my God, don't say that, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
If you share information, the only way it's private is if you keep it to yourself.
Mm.
And so as soon as you share it, there's no expectation of privacy.
That's true.
Regardless of what it says, someone has access to your data. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding Google and understanding the intent of Google, Google aggregates data. And
Mm-hmm.
its function is to be able to collect as much information as possible to give you that fantastic experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're Googling and you're looking at all these different products and services. You want efficiency, you want stuff fast, you want the information coming. Well, that requires them to gain information about you to be able to give you that tailored, customized experience that you're looking for. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other applications as well. But I say Google because they dominate in
Yeah.
terms of data mining. And it's important to know that when you do save that password, and right, it's in the cloud and it's in the Google Cloud. And
Mm-hmm.
just understand that, right? Again, apply what best method is best for you.
Right.
Cannot get away from utilizing technology. Your
Yeah.
basic way of life. All the companies and organizations are moving from physical to virtual environments, and unfortunately, this is where it becomes a challenge because there's an assumption that everybody can keep pace with all these changes. And the reality is, especially for rural and marginalized communities, they tend to be left out. And so it's not necessarily equitable access, which
Mm-hmm.
means it's also not equitable protection.
Right.
And that as well. And that's why, we focus on making sure that we are being able to provide the right access, like what we're doing right now on your podcast. Just
Mm-hmm.
making sure that people are making the best decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, how can individuals secure their personal devices from cyber attacks?
Oh, with some of the things that I talked about,
That
right?
a lot of
Going into the settings.
Okay, the settings
Go
and
to the
just
settings as soon as you download those applications. Go
okay.
to the settings. Almost all applications have a means in which you can, enable different
Uh-huh.
type of tools that are in the application when it comes to privacy, when it comes
Okay.
to security, and they're kind of readily available for you to find. If you
Okay.
have an application and you are looking to download it and you look and there's nothing in there for that to cut, I would immediately delete it,
Okay.
because you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be able to, say what, well, not say, but set the actual application and the capabilities to be able to provide the information or not to be able to provide the information. Either I want everybody to know my location or I
Mm-hmm.
don't want everybody to know my location. No, I do not want this app tracking me when it's not in use.
Right.
Only track me when it is in use, or I don't want you to track me at all. And sometimes
Ex
they'll come up and say, hey, if you don't let us to track you, understand that the capabilities that you want will be limited because this application requires blah, 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 right? It will explain that to you. But
right.
first and foremost is you have to take the step of actually doing that, which
Yeah.
most people do, is they just download the app and start using it. Because,
Yeah.
hey, I need that app like right now. And it's like, yeah, but you use it at your own risk, like
Mm-hmm.
anything, right? So
Yeah.
you need to understand that. So going into the applications, even those technologies that you procure online or you purchase physically, you
Mm-hmm.
should be looking at the user manual. You should be looking, which is really your user manual is like a physical settings,
Right.
right? It's just now you have a soft copy, right? On the internet, you
Mm-hmm.
download an application, you're going to go into your user manual, your settings, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
look to see what options are available to you and how you want the application actually to function that's comfortable for you so that your information is not actually being, put out there. I would also be leery of having 20,000 different apps on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't understand if there's any malware or things that are embedded in the code of those applications.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can develop an app and put it out on Google Play or the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to really understand and have a little bit more situational awareness and be cautious of the types of apps that you're downloading.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and then when you do that, those different applications have different type of code that
Okay.
isn't necessarily inoperable. So what that means is that you can download an application that actually will impact either
Mm-hmm.
your system or other apps to make your phone run slower, or it may not function correctly, and
Mm-hmm.
which you may not understand that you've inadvertently downloaded malware within those applications, and or that particular app may actually have been hacked um,
Mm-hmm.
separately with that vendor, and you're using it, and because you're using it, it's communicating, with the mothership where you actually pulled the application, and so
Right.
now you're kind of the stool pigeon in a way, and a
Mm-hmm.
jump off point for when people are committing nefarious acts, hacking, etc. online. It's
Mm-hmm.
jumping off of your phone and it's jumping off of your platform because you have an exposure that you're not even aware of just because you have a certain app on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Minimize your apps, clean up your apps. I have
Mm-hmm.
to do that because I'll be downloading apps and I'm like, man, I need to delete this stuff.
Yeah.
Get rid of those apps that you're not using. Just don't have them arbitrarily sitting there. And,
Yeah.
there's some applications out there as well that will monitor for you
Mm-hmm.
how open and exposed you are. Because a lot of the apps run in the background. Again, you need to turn that off in the settings. Apps don't
Mm-hmm.
need to be running in the background. What are they
Right.
running in the background for? Unless you
Right.
want to get the latest news, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But you got apps that are just sitting there wide open. And when it means to run in the background, means just that. That
Mm-hmm.
means data is moving back and forth. Information about you, your location on your
Mm-hmm.
phone, etc., is moving back and forth in a variety of different ways because that app is still functioning in the background unbeknownst to you. And so you
Mm-hmm.
need to make sure that you have tighter control over what types of applications that you're using. I talk about the cell
Yeah.
phone a lot because most people live on their cell phones more
Yeah.
so than their desktop or even their laptop. Their
Yeah.
phone's everything, and you already know that. So
Yeah.
I just warn people, there's no such thing as one app or vendor that's better than another, Apple or Android, or there's no such thing. The reality is this: from a capability standpoint, yes, you can argue that, but when it comes down from a security standpoint, all technology is vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Every single piece of it is all
Yeah.
vulnerable, right? And
Yeah.
so it's important for you to minimize, right, that footprint, and then understand if you put something out there, have you like measures in place to
Right.
mitigate the risk, right? You want to use a lot of different things, have things in place to mitigate that. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a variety of different tools that you can go and look at, make sure that, again, it's from a reputable vendor is
Mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah.
And then have things in place, right, to minimize your exposure, irrespective of that.
Mm-hmm.
Update, probably the basic thing that most people don't do.
Update the phones.
Update your phones and update your desktop. If you
Right.
got Microsoft, update it. When it says it needs a patch, update it. Don't click later.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most people do. I'm working on something right now. I'll do that later, or I let it
Yeah.
run it. And then
That's me.
then it comes up at night and it's like, hey, we had a conflict. We couldn't run this. We need to run this. And
Right.
then you just run it. You click it again, run it again later tonight. And then the next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, the only way where you'll actually start using, like actually updating, is
Mm-hmm.
because your system is or there's a capability. But by that time, you probably already been breached, or you already have a vulnerability on your system because
Mm-hmm.
you didn't update the actual patch, right,
Right.
to protect it. So it's a take 22. You can't completely rely on the vendor
Mm-hmm.
to protect it. There's an expectation because you're using the tool, but there's also an expectation for you to do the due diligence for yourself, right? So
Right.
you got to make sure that you keep your house clean.
Right. You want to
So
keep your
you, yeah,
computer the same way.
keep your computer the same way, right? When
Yeah.
it's time to update, don't just click later, because that's what
Right.
people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yourself exposed, unfortunately, and lots of people do that. And again, it's the hardest threat, honestly, is human behavior.
Mm.
Technology, at least you can understand from a technology standpoint,
Right.
there's code, you can understand the execution of that code, you can plan for that. But human behavior, you cannot. And that is the reason why we are inundated with so many cyber attacks, because the majority of those attacks are based on exploiting human behavior,
Mm.
period. Right.
Right.
And again, you can have as many, controls and measures in place, but if you don't do the basics of just updating your operating system,
Right.
or updating the app on your phone,
Or your
or
password and
your
all.
password,
Yeah.
you leave yourself wide open. It doesn't matter how many controls that you have in place,
Mhm. And a
measures you
lot of
try
people
to
don't do that because we're so
no
busy. We so focused on the instant gratification, just
instant gratification.
getting on social media, and that's it. We don't think about safety or nothing. Safety is always first. That's I was a
Mhm.
security guard. Let's say for an armed security guard for 18 years, and throughout all my training, they always taught us that safety was always first. And it's the same thing with social media, like you were saying, safety has to be first. And a lot of times, people aren't aware or they don't have the technical education. They just get right on it. And I used to do it in the beginning, and there's certain apps that that I actually had took off of my phone because I was, like you were saying, having all those different apps in your phone. Because I was
Yeah.
sitting the other day, I was like, why do I have all this? Because it took up so much storage in my phone to where I couldn't
Mhm.
even get on my phone anymore. So I was like, I need to delete some of this stuff. It's
Exactly.
just too much on my phone that I don't even use. you
Mhm.
know. So, but yeah, safety is always first. And my thing is, um, my other question I wanted to ask you, I lost my train of thought real quick, but I wanted to ask you about people who hack other people's accounts. Is it a myth that hackers or people who actually work in the cybersecurity industry? This is what I didn't think that would it could be anybody who's a hacker, or is it, people who actually work in the industry of cyber security and all of that? If you
Well,
could clarify that, because some people think that's, you know,
well,
I hear people say that a lot. They say, "Oh, if that people who are hacking are usually the people who work in the industry who knows about the site computer."
no, it actually can be your 13-year-old kid. Um,
Mm, that's
or
true.
I mean, it's really about, first of all, understanding, like, I will talk about the beauty of cyberspace and the internet
Mm-hmm.
online. What's so fascinating is that one of the positive, it's many positive aspects of being online, right? So it's not all bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most positive areas of being online in cyber is that it removes a lot of barriers
Mm-hmm.
that were previously in place in
Mm-hmm.
terms of getting access.
Right.
What I mean by that is, if you can get access to the internet, first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to um, find all types of information that's readily available, open source. The challenge is whether or not understanding the validity of the information that's out there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's lots of information out there. And so
Right.
it enables you to be able to learn
Mm-hmm.
so many different things. I mean, and it doesn't matter what your nationality is, your age,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where you live at.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and find out how to do all kinds of stuff online because there's so much information that's out there.
Yeah.
So to think that the only people that have access to know how to hack in the system are those that work in the industry is very short-sighted because everybody can learn how to hack.
Mm.
It's a secret,
Yeah.
actually. If you want to look for
You
the
could
information,
go on YouTube and learn everything
you can
nowadays.
learn, you can go on YouTube, you can get access to, things that are on the deep web, on the
Right.
dark web, excuse me. You can find all types of ways. There's so many forums and chat rooms and
Okay.
so much information that you can find to actually become very skilled in terms of exploiting systems and what that really means. And
Right.
so that is, again, exploiting systems, that's important to also understand. There's good hack and bad hack, or black
Right.
hat and white hat. I don't really like to use that. I like,
Right.
there's good hack, and then there's hacks that are done for, ill-intentioned purposes, right? And
Right.
ill-intentioned purposes and nefarious type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a company or organization and I have a platform that's online and I want to make sure that everything is locked down, the availability of that platform is always there, the integrity of the information on that platform is there, things are
Mm-hmm.
working as intended. I may actually hire somebody to see if they can hack into my system and or my platform, just so I can understand how much exposure I have and what
Right.
I need to do to make sure to minimize my exposure. That's
Mm-hmm.
good hacking. That's not
Right.
bad hacking. That's because
Okay.
I'm trying to understand how to protect myself. And I may
Okay.
hold a variety of different scenarios,
Right.
right? In order to be able to do that. We do that in the physical world with physical security, right? And so we do the same within, cyberspace. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's other type of hacking.
Right.
Another type of hacking is sometimes, you just really curious. And you may actually want to see if you can get access to something that you shouldn't actually get access to.
Right.
Now, some people do that. Lots of people do it because it's the thrill of being able to say, hey, I was able to break into that.
Mm-hmm.
Other people do it because there's something on the other side I want. And
Mm.
it's a way for me to be able to get that so I can leverage that asset. We call it an asset, something
Mm-hmm.
that's important, and I can make money on it or I can sell it, usually for economic reasons, right?
Right.
Or for whatever self gratification that I'm looking for. Because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always have to be because of money. It can
Mm-hmm.
be because something that I want to consume as a
Mm-hmm.
consumer,
Right.
that I don't necessarily want other people to know about, or I
Mm-hmm.
want to just get it and not the right way, right? So there's
Okay.
all these different ways. So no, it's not just based on someone that's in the field. It's based on anyone who actually wants to learn about it. I mean, the
Mm.
information is there. It's not a secret, you know.
Right.
It's those who have an interest, those who are technically inclined, those
Mm-hmm.
who want to learn. If that's where your mindset is, yes, and you can actually create tools to new tools, not just the
Mm-hmm.
things that are out there, but creating new tools so that you can actually exploit
Mm-hmm.
various systems as well. And remember, the exploitation piece is different. It's evolved. It's not just about breaking into a system. It's voice data. It's video data. It's
Mm-hmm.
metadata. It's
Right.
all this information that we have out there. It's being on Wi-Fi. I mean, everything is Internet of Things. That's a
Right.
whole nother, can of worms that we've opened up, where there's so many avenues in terms of being able to see and gain access to information and get what we want. If you
Mm-hmm.
got the right tool and a certain type of mindset, you
Mm-hmm.
can you can hack. Absolutely. It's just your intentions of what you're trying to do
Right.
is in question. And a lot of people do it for financial reasons, unfortunately. Things that they
Yeah.
should be doing it for
Right.
ill-intended purposes, right? A lot of people do it like that way.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that going on. A lot of people getting scammed,
Mm-hmm.
getting taken advantage of on social media as far as getting money taken away from them, and and they prey on a lot of elderly people too. I noticed
Yes.
that.
Yes, yes.
I've noticed.
It's catastrophic what's happening to the senior community, which is probably why the organizations that I established focus on something that's really important. Because there's, again, and I kind of mentioned it early in our conversation, there's a false perception that everybody has access to the same things in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And those who are benefiting from having the access feel like, oh, well, everybody, we could just get rid of everything physical and just have it all online. And
Mm-hmm.
this is just fantastic. And we don't need to do away with physical money and do away with all these different things. And we're readily moving in that direction. But
Mm-hmm.
the reality is that, if we're really truly talking about being inclusive, because we like to use that word,
Right.
we got to think about everybody. And yes, people might be able to have access, but there's plenty of people who still don't have clean drinking water and don't have readily availability of power or
Mm-hmm.
energy to even think about talking about the internet,
Yeah, that's
right? The
true.
majority of the world, except for the global north, which includes ourselves, does not have high availability of energy.
Mm.
That is a misconception that people in the global north and here in the States have in particular, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody has access to that. That is not true.
Mm.
Everyone, the majority of people in the world don't have access to clean water.
Mm-hmm.
We take that for granted. And,
Yep.
and how we go about getting access to these things is typically through going digital and leveraging technology and being able to innovate to increase efficiency for all
Mm-hmm.
the things that we take for granted. But
Right.
who gets that? Those
Yeah.
who have the resources, those who have the access, those who have the money, they
Mm-hmm.
get to benefit from that.
Right.
When we start moving everything into the virtual space, leveraging technology, going digital,
Mm-hmm.
you got to think about the people who don't necessarily have that access,
Mm-hmm.
or how they are actually going to be able to learn and comprehend how
Right.
fast we're going. And our senior population is a huge example of us not being very inclusive and really focused on how much money we can make very quickly, because we have moved a lot of basic needs
Mm-hmm.
into the virtual space. And it is very, 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 very challenging for
Yeah.
senior community to even understand or to keep track of like their basic needs,
Mm-hmm.
even in respect to just going to the bank, physical banks going away, digital cafes. What does that
Mm.
mean to a senior person whose level of trust is based on actually having a relationship
With the bank.
with the bank?
Yeah.
Yes, they come
Cause
in with free.
old people is old school. They ain't trying to.
Yes,
They don't want to be messing with this technology. I know a lot of people.
no,
They be like, no, I do everything manually.
manually.
Yeah. People don't. Some people don't want to mess with this technology. Like you said.
No, they don't. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, globally, everybody ain't all up on being online all the time either. I
Mm.
mean, I know in respect to the organizations that are around Protect Us Kids Foundation and Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group, for a lot of our global stakeholders, before they even want to do hear anything you have to say, they actually want to see you in person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard, right? And so, the if you want to call it a benefit of when we had the pandemic, it
Right.
forced everybody to get online, even those who didn't want to. And that
Yeah.
was a means, for many to be able to try to, build that level of trust. But still, people want to see your face. They want you to travel. They want to see who you are
Yeah.
before they even think about doing trusted things with you in
Yeah.
terms of your money, things that support your family,
Mm-hmm.
and your friends and your businesses. They want to see who you are. And
Right.
again, we're moving in this direction, and we're not thinking about truly what I call our marginalized community.
Mm-hmm.
Seniors are part of the marginalized community, right?
Mm-hmm.
They again,
Right.
we're moving at the speed of light. We also take it for granted that rural and marginalized communities even have the resources
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
actually move at the same pace as those more privileged
Right.
communities move at that pace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're definitely, we talk about, some people have never heard of something called the digital divide, but it's very real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about having equitable access or lack of equitable access.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're moving at the speed of light. We're putting everything on the internet. We're removing physical, and then we're not thinking about the people that honestly they don't have access to those resources. They don't have
Right.
access to be able to have products and services to protect themselves from a cyber perspective, let alone even understand what that means.
Right.
No one is there to provide them the support.
So they
And
just being left out
they're left
completely.
out completely. Yes.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
And that also is occurring in terms of basic care from a healthcare perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of people assume, yes, it's great that we have telemedicine. Now we're moving towards telemedicine resources, and
Mm-hmm.
we're moving towards, being able to provide virtual care. You
Mm-hmm.
doctor
I don't like that.
online.
I don't like that virtual
You
care.
can, you can, you can,
Uh-uh.
you can come online.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you being in the office, you
Yep.
can come online. I can look at you, assess, and be able to prescribe you, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Now, There's benefits in that, right? I
Okay.
just heard what you said. You're like, I don't like that. I don't like that
Uh-uh.
virtual care. I want to go
I
into
had
something
I
like,
had I had mental therapy virtually. I didn't like that either. I like the
uh-huh.
physical. It's just certain things that I have to be face to face with the person. You know what I mean? I don't want to use a computer to because to me it feels like it's like laziness. It's like,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
yeah, no, I don't want you to diagnose me over the computer. No, you need to touch me and take my blood pressure and all this kind of stuff, you know.
So let me share with you.
Okay.
That is an option that should be available and should
Right.
remain available for those who don't feel comfortable.
Right.
But the reality is, rural and marginalized communities have already had inequitable access to healthcare
Mm-hmm.
because they don't even have the transportation available for them to even go see the doctor,
Oh, wow.
or they don't even have the means to be able to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a variety of different issues in rural and marginalized communities that impacts basic care,
Right.
removing the technology out of it.
Right.
The reason why we go digital is to think about, especially leveraging technology and cyber for social good. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, just like what you said, I need somebody physical, but what happens if I don't have access to that?
Right.
Then telemedicine is very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the person has the technology in the first place.
Right.
So they can actually access the internet, so they can get the diagnosis or diagnosis from a physical asking questions, just like your doctor would ask you,
Right.
and making a determination when you should come in and what type of care you should have. So there's
Right.
benefits from it. But
Mm.
again, all of that is a mute point if you don't even have access to the technology to begin with it.
That's
And
true.
here in the US, yes, there's been plenty of methods in the past in terms of providing broadband services, the rural and marginalized communities. Again, that's fantastic. But
Mm-hmm.
what if the community doesn't have access to the technology to even access the broadband?
That's true.
Who's actually putting this in their homes?
Mm-hmm.
And are their homes have the infrastructure to be able to support the technology?
Right. Yeah.
Is
That's
anybody
true.
questioning any of this?
Nope. Nobody's
Again,
talking about it.
the majority of the world is rural and marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is there's inequity built into that, because those who have urban and metropolitan areas, those who do not, everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to fix it? Or are we just going to focus on the ones where we feel like we can make money from? And so
Mm-hmm.
we focus on the ones where we feel like we can make money from, which is urban and in metropolitan areas,
Right.
large corporations. And then we neglect those who don't have the access because we can't make money off of them. Why
Mm-hmm.
should I sell my services to this group of people when it's not really a large market for me to make money? And
Right.
that's one of the reasons, I even see that in terms of the breakdown in what we call critical infrastructure, or the breakdown in people having equitable access to basic needs like
Mm-hmm.
water and energy and healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
those things that are most important. And when you have breakdowns in not having adequate energy, power, lights, not having access to equitable healthcare, not
Mm-hmm.
having clean water, what is that? Not having jobs.
Right.
Then what happens in rural and marginalized communities? You get an increase in nefarious activity,
Mm-hmm.
because people basically trying to survive
Yep.
off the basics. So they're doing what they can. And those who can get a little bit of access to technology, yeah, they're going to leverage that to
Mm-hmm.
be able to get what they need to get to
Right.
survive. I'm not saying some people just do it because they just want to do it. But
Right.
for a lot of people, as you already know, in marginalized communities, it's about survival.
Yep.
If it's not readily available and I don't have jobs and I don't have adequate education, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have adequate water, I got to think of means of how I'm going to feed myself and my family and how I'm going to survive. So I'm going to do what I need to do that. And what
Mm-hmm.
we've noticed is that's an age-old problem that's
Yeah.
been since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
Technology on top of it just exasperates the issue.
Right.
The reality is that we still haven't resolved age-old problems, and we're moving and laying technology on top of it and saying, hey, look how innovative we are. But we're still suffering from the basics. And
Mm-hmm.
so the intent of humans and human behavior naturally and instinctively is that I have to do whatever I need to do to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that also means getting access to things to make money,
Mm-hmm.
which is why you have issues in terms of stuff that you probably wouldn't think about folks are doing, but more and more that we hear about in terms of exploitation of children, exploitation of the elderly, exploitation of all types of things, leveraging technology, even in terms of trafficking, leveraging technology to help facilitate business.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's the right type of business, but hey, if this can help you with your good business, it can help me with the stuff that I need to do in order for me to survive. And we see more and more of that. And that's one of the reasons why Protect Us Kids Foundation, I know I didn't talk about it, but Protect Us Kids Foundation, you know, the nonprofit focused on providing tools and resources to young people in rural and marginalized communities here and globally from a prevention standpoint. But we realized very early on that once we close the youth life sessions and once we, you know, step out, then the kids are, you know, doing what they need to do. They're still suffering from the same challenges in the community, and they're very much susceptible and vulnerable to exploitation, especially online. And so what we realize is that we need to kind of take a step back and really look at this and understand, especially for me, I've been in cybersecurity for almost 30 years. So for me, the way I was brought up in the ranks was this was about protecting our civil liberties as people, our basic means of way of life. As we move from the physical environment into the digital world, we need to be able to protect ourselves and protect our way of life. Everyone should have access to shelter. Everyone should have access to clean water. Everyone should have access to adequate health care. Everyone should have access to an education. Everyone should have access to safety, to be safe and protected. Everybody should have that. That shouldn't be based on just because of what you poor, you're not poor. That's ridiculous. Everybody should have access to basic means of life and being able to sustain their way of life. So because I was brought up in that, it's the understanding that cybersecurity, the purpose of it truly isn't just to focus on the zeros and ones and the systems. It's about thinking about how cyber and leveraging those controls and measures and the things that we put in place to protect that virtual environment, how that could have a positive impact on our communities. And it's about sustaining our businesses, and it's about sustaining our critical infrastructure, things that pertain to water sector, energy sector. That's what I'm talking about, financial sector, healthcare sector, critical infrastructure. It's about sustaining that. So if I'm looking in rural and marginalized, what do I see in a community? Breakdown in critical infrastructure. They don't have the basics. They don't have adequate healthcare. They don't have equitable access to clean water. They don't have the basics that they should have. And so if we take cyber and we say, hey, we know everybody, to include those in rural and marginalized communities, understand that by going digital, that's going to help increase efficiency, and that's going to help build and make things better. That's the intent, right? We always have a positive intent. Well, we know that. So because we know that everybody is moving towards digital, everybody's moving towards innovation, even though we may not be as thoughtful as we need to be, right? To make sure everybody is brought along in this process. We're trying to get there. We can leverage cybersecurity the way it should be. And as we leverage those products and services in cyber to help mature critical infrastructure, we can do that. And how about focusing and pivoting for a second, or more than a second, on rural and marginalized communities, because they're the most susceptible to cyber attack, and they're the ones that are hurting the most because they don't have equitable access to those resources. So if we pivot, maybe we focus on that, we can actually help mitigate a lot of the nefarious activity that is happening in the communities. And so that is why Protect Us Kids, yes, we provide the resources and the information. We have a youth life program. The kids basically run this, right? This is global. It's an amazing program, and these kids are amazing organization, and the kids are the ones that are running that. But in order to truly protect them, we got to address the basics. And so Protect Us Kids stood up a subsidiary, Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group, that Protect Us Kids owns. It's a for-profit social enterprise, and it's basically about doing just that. What I just talked about, hey, cybersecurity companies, academia, organizations, small businesses that's in cyber, I think you need to pay attention to something called cybersecurity and sustainability. And what that means, we are the thought leaders in that space, and we want to bring you aboard so that you can actually provide your products and services to the community. And guess what? You won't lose any money in the process. Because we're a social enterprise, 100% of our proceeds goes back into the nonprofit, right? And so those proceeds go back to sustaining the nonprofit. But
Mhm.
most importantly, as being a member of the consortium, which is what GCS is,
Mhm.
you have an opportunity to provide products and services to rural and marginalized communities with the understanding that in doing so, you're going to bring aboard a percentage of apprentices and interns from those communities that we serve.
Mhm.
So not only are you selling your product, but you're also going to help with capacity development because that's important.
Right.
You need to make sure that the communities are sustainable. Because guess what? If the communities are not sustainable, how are you going to make a profit? You need
Exactly.
the people in order to consume your services.
Yeah.
And the greater market is rural and marginalized, not just those that can afford it.
Yeah.
Truly being sustainable for your company requires you to ensure that the community is sustainable in turn.
Yeah.
It's very,
Exactly.
very important. So, okay, we provide that opportunity, but at the same token, again, because organizations like making money,
Mm-hmm.
because we're a social enterprise, we go after corporate sponsorship, grants, funding, and we subsidize the costs.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, the rural and marginalized communities have an opportunity to either get those services for free or at greatly reduced discount. The companies can still make their money, and we can create an ecosystem where the community is able to protect and empower themselves by being able to have the knowledge, having the training, having the awareness, and having those things brought to them so they can make best decisions that's best for them, which
Right.
is important because their communities and their situations are very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And having that equitable access enables them to actually be empowered, which
Mm-hmm.
helps support this thing that everybody talks about in cybersecurity about being resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have to be resilient against these attacks. Well, first and foremost, in order for you to be resilient, you got to make sure that you have a foundation that's sustainable. And that
Right.
foundation is not just within your organization. You depend on so many resources and suppliers and all this stuff in order for you to, get your return and get your business working the way intended. If
Mm-hmm.
something happens, and when something happens to those vendors and those suppliers, it has a direct impact on your business. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to pay attention to rural and marginalized communities because guess what? Everybody want to save a buck. So
Yep.
I'm talking about providing cyber services, but large corporations and entities, they leverage the resources from rural and marginalized communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily in an equitable way, but
Right.
they do that so that they can benefit. And I'm saying, hey, you can still benefit, but let's do this in a more sustainable way. And when we
Right.
talk about cybersecurity, let's talk about it from a cybersecurity sustainability, where it's not just talking about sustainable practices in your organization and thinking
Mm-hmm.
about resilient in your organization.
Right.
You're also thinking about the impact that you're having on socially, economically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And within the environment. That's super important because
Mm-hmm.
if you can make sure that the community is good,
Mm-hmm.
you can guarantee you being sustainable in the long term. But if
Yeah.
you completely just focus on profit and totally just be like whatever with the
Just
community,
right.
that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me.
It don't make sense
And you
at
can see
all.
the impact. You can
Yeah.
see the impact from the past and
Mm-hmm.
even now, all the craziness that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We're not thinking about the benefit. And actually, it's to me, it's like, I don't understand why we're not doing this. I understand. I just don't like that way of thinking
Right.
because I feel like everyone should have an opportunity and equitable access.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get the resources and the basics, then it's
Mm-hmm.
up to you on how you leverage that and where you're going to go.
Right.
So that's fair competition,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yep.
if I'm coming in there with the attitude that I'm going to withhold something from you,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm going to provide you a service for you to consume and completely neglect the impact that it's having on the community just to make money,
Mm-hmm.
that has a huge impact on the population and it has a huge impact on the society. And that's what you see with
Mm-hmm.
social media.
And it's a shame because that's the world we're living in right now.
That's the
Everything
world
is
we live in.
everything is all about money. People don't have it's nothing, no morals these days. It's nothing about humanity. People don't care about, especially these corporate businesses that are making billions of dollars. They don't care about humanity. All they care about is making the money. It's all about money, money, money. And like you said, you leaving out people in marginalized communities, and this is where crime comes in too, because
Yes.
people are out here committing these crimes because they trying to survive.
They're trying to survive.
Yeah, they
That's the
trying to
big.
survive. And
Somebody
it's
say something to me. It's funny that you say that.
mm-hmm,
Somebody said something to me. They don't represent the marginalized community, but I really appreciated it because it gave me a understanding.
mm-hmm,
I believe that. And I said, well, why don't you believe that? And they said, well, I just think there's just bad people. Do you really think it's because they don't have? And I said, you know what? It's okay. Because that's why I want to be able to provide you information and educate you and show you factual things and be able to get you to see the relationship between this.
Right.
Because, yes, it has a direct impact on what's happening. Not to say, yes, there are bad people in the world. You know, got good versus evil. Yes. But what's happening right now, especially in online in the cyberspace, you have a complete imbalance. And everything is dark. Everything. And so it's like you can't function as you talk about humanity. That's not humane to be imbalanced like that. You got to have a balance. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about cyber sustainability, that ecosystem, having a balance and understanding for every action, there's a reaction. You cannot keep moving at the speed of light when it
leaving people out.
And leaving people out. You need people. This is not going to run by itself. I don't care how much artificial intelligence, blah, blah, blah. Yes, companies laying people off left and right, doing all this stuff. But if you're thinking smart about this, look at other regions of the world and how they're leveraging this technology. I had a friend of mine tell me they went to Asia.
I was going to say Asia,
a particular country in Asia, and they were sitting in a restaurant, and it was a really cool restaurant because you were being served by robots.
A robot. I saw that.
And so they were sitting there, and the robot comes up, and there's a screen, and there's a woman face. And they asked this, like, "Oh my God!" And she was like, "Yeah, she had a child that was disabled, and she was working remotely through the robot, and that the job enabled her to be able to provide the special care for her child, but still be able to make a living." And so, although she was not physically there waitressing, she was the person that was taking the orders and providing the information to the robot, but still being able to provide for her family. That's leveraging technology for social good. It's not saying we're going to lay off everybody human. Just have robots, huh? You
and
still got to have...
and here they laying off. If you go into stores now, you might have one or two cashiers in there. Everything else is either self-serve or, that, like you said, they're just laying off people,
But the burden that it is going to have, and it is having on society, is greater than the return.
That's true.
That doesn't make sense.
At all.
People don't have jobs and they can't eat. You start getting health issues. You start getting increase in crime, and the structure starts to break down. You still need people. And this is the part where I feel like it's pure negligence and neglect, because even if you don't care about people and you can care less about them, you surely care about the money that's in the bank. And understanding that if you don't have consumers that can even afford to purchase your product, how is that successful?
And how's that balancing out the economy?
It's not balancing out the economy.
Because you can't, you need people to spend money, so to keep the economy going, but we replacing it with, or we just laying people off, and unemployment rate is so high, it's ridiculous right now, or they not paying people enough money. Minimum wage, I mean, all these years, here it is 2024, and minimum wage is what, still $15, and now
it doesn't make any sense.
You can't live off no $15 and some change an hour. And the rent is $1,700 a month for a 1-bedroom. What kind of sense does that make?
So then we're upset. And we, oh my God, we have to stop these cyber attacks. And we have to stop people from hacking in and credit cards. And we have to stop people from skimming the kiosk and at the gas station pumps. Oh, and people coming over here and they doing phishing schemes and ransomware, and they demanding money. So how do you negate that? Do you keep putting up a fence, or do you go to the root of the issue?
Exactly.
And cybersecurity, way I was taught, is that you always try to identify the root cause. Right?
Yep.
Because what you think on surface is not necessarily what it appears to be.
And
there's actually something underlying or dependent that you don't even realize that actually is what you need to actually focus on in order to mitigate and minimize the risk to what's actually happening.
Right.
So why aren't we thinking about this when we think about what's happening truly with cyber attacks? We do this in the field of intelligence and threat intelligence, where we try to understand the motivation and we try to understand the intent. But why aren't we thinking about this in terms of even the very things that are happening? There's
Right.
always an action and there's a reaction from it.
That's
So
right.
when you oppress people in whatever element that you want to use it,
Yeah.
no technology with technology, and you are still prescribing the same systemic methods of oppression, and you put technology on top of that, if you think people are not going to think about ways on how they are going to push back, you have another thing coming.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, why be afraid of equitable opportunity? Because that's what it is. We want to cheat.
They want to keep
Because
us.
cheating,
It's always going to, well, what it is it's all about the rich getting rich and the poor staying where we've been
but
always stayed.
again, if you
Yeah.
give me equitable opportunity to
Yeah.
resources, everybody ain't gonna be up there. Number
Right.
one, because everybody don't have the capacity or the direction to go there.
Right.
Some people gonna mess it up. Some
That's
people
true.
gonna excel. Some people gonna stay even kill, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But to withhold something and prevent people from having an opportunity
Yeah.
because you want to have it all to yourself because you might feel threatened or you want to minimize.
Yeah.
Because if you truly being innovative and you truly moving forward, you absolutely want equitable opportunity and access, because that is the only way where we're truly going to advance and prosper as
Yep.
human beings. You want to have that
Right.
because the strong survive.
Yeah.
Because we on the same playing field. We got
Yeah.
the same opportunity.
Yeah.
And those who can access will access it. Those who won't, they won't. And again, it's not taking away anything from anybody
Right.
else.
It's
It's
including
actually
them,
helping us
including
sustain,
everybody.
and it's sustaining things for everybody over
Right.
time. Because if you're only thinking about instant gratification in this lifetime, and you are not thinking about the impact that it's going to have on your legacy and on people after you and before you, that is a false way of thinking. And it does not help. If anything, it helps create a landscape of abuse and despair and mental health issues and
Yeah.
all the things that we are seeing right now. If this is not a wake-up call, we have several wars that are going on right now. Several wars and conflicts,
Yeah.
right? Going on right now. And we got young people who do not have equitable access, that are looking online, that are being radicalized, that are being influenced to be able to do other things because they want a different way of life. We have young people. That's why I love young people so much. We got young people that are pushing back, young people that are like, you know what? We don't want this anymore. You got young people that may not necessarily be making the right decisions, but you know what? Based on where they're at, that over there seems like that's the better decision. And you can't blame anybody for that than the ones who are accountable for where we're at right now, which are the adults, right? And so for me, I'm like, this is where it becomes strange, but it's so important. Why are we just watching this happen? Because we make money from the chaos, with the clicking, the violence.
That's all people care about.
We're making money off of that. And who do we target to make money off of? Rural and marginalized communities. It's the same method. It's just a different way, or the same mentality, but a different way, a different method. Nothing has changed. Rural and marginalized communities have been used as resources since the beginning of time. With the advent of technology on top of it,
and we still being and we still being used, and people don't realize it. When we go on social media, we being used, we being exploited.
Yeah,
people don't
especially our
understand
young
that
people.
we don't own Instagram, we don't own Facebook, we
No.
don't own Twitter, we don't own Snapchat, we don't own TikTok.
But they own us.
They own us.
They own us.
And they making money off of us.
Yes,
and all that drama and all that violence and all those videos they putting on there, and what is the damage it's doing to people mentally. You know, and it, you know, it's just a domino effect. And people, like you said, people better wake up, and they not. You know, people, all they thinking about is the money. It's all about making money. It's all about making money. And
but I'm hoping they will. And that's why I focus on the young people. And that's what we try to do with Protect Us Kids. And that's why we have Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group.
Yeah. You know, my concern is like you. I'm concerned about the kids, because we got this generation, next generation, you know, that's coming behind us. We got to really pay attention to that. And people ain't really,
they're not paying attention, but they also we're not providing, and it's a disservice. We're not protecting our children.
No, we're not protecting them
And
at
this
all.
is and we haven't in a long, long, long time.
Nope.
And this Pandora's box that we've opened with technology has just really just showed the true colors of what we have been doing and how our most vulnerable, our elderly, but especially our children, how we use them. And right now, our children are products. They're not children. They are consumed.
Yeah.
They're little consumers that are being consumed by a larger entity. And we're watching it and we're allowing it to happen because of the instant gratification and the validation that human beings feel by being online.
Yeah.
See, there's an action. There's a reaction to every action, right? Yep. So we're creating this environment. Oh, it's more efficiency. We have less interaction with people. Mental health has deteriorated.
Yep.
Interpersonal skills has plummeted.
Yep.
Most people don't know how to have a conversation with anybody.
No.
You can go outside right now and see whole families don't even talk to each other. Whole groups of kids on their phone, walking at the dinner table on the phone. So we have completely twisted in terms of how we communicate, which is so harmful to us as humans because our cognitive abilities and the way that we can actually develop mentally and physically requires us to have human interaction. What you and I are doing right now, you see my hands flailing, you nodding your head. I can see, right? We can see each other, and at least I can still get some type of understanding in terms of she's, we're connecting here. She's understanding where I'm coming from. But if I remove that and you just have emoticons, I'm behind a social handle, and then you're putting up deep fakes, even if it does look like a person, ain't a real person.
There's no connection.
Then there's a whole different breakdown in terms of how a young person is developing and how they are going to react in social realms. This thing called social media and being social is a fallacy. The reality is we're more antisocial than ever.
We are.
We are more antisocial. We are more focused on not enabling people to have a voice. We are most important of canceling people out that have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
We are more focused on completely having one narrative. And when I say that, you say who owns the social media platforms? Take it a step further and base it on region or country. Because regions and countries, to include ours, they control the narrative.
Yeah.
In terms of what is being said and what is being produced based on how much money it makes. Not based on truth, but based on how much money it makes.
Yeah.
And that's the danger in terms of not looking at things from a sustainability standpoint, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity sustainability is more than just sustainable practices in your organization. It's about, hold up for a second. If everybody's going digital and if everybody's leveraging technology, there's a pathway with cyber with every single thing that we do. Every single thing, there's an opportunity for somebody to exploit that technology to get access to something that probably they shouldn't get access, or to twist the narrative. And we see that happening. And again, what do? Nothing. We talk about it. We preach about it. We do all these different things. And that's why I decided, Crystal, to walk away from corporate, walk away and say, you know what? I'm going to focus. Protect This Kids is almost 20 years old. I've been doing this my entire career. So I've been, working and doing all this other kind of stuff, political appointee under Obama, doing all this great stuff, right? I come into the private sector and I begin to understand in financial services really how our fiscal economy actually works. And I said, hold it for a second.
Right.
I really need to focus on trying to figure out how to get people to understand and not react to something that's already been there for a minute. Exploitation of children and trafficking has been around since the beginning of time. What makes it more nefarious is the fact technology blends and takes away all boundaries. And so remember what I said, technology used to be able to do things better and to be able to make more money. So if I can make money with social media ads and etc., well, guess what? I can also make money with exploiting children and leveraging marketing and leveraging social media and leveraging the online environment to cross all borders. So you can get whatever you want on the menu. Whatever you dream of, I can make it happen online. So you have this Pandora's box that's open, and you have no one looking at the key entity in terms of humanity surviving, and that's our children.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Our children are should be the most protected asset, more than money, more than anything, our kids, because guess what? They're the next generation that's supposed to take care of us when we old.
Yeah.
So if they're programmed already and there's no type of governance, it's all about whatever, everything goes. When you have a mentality that everything goes, Lenny gonna suffer. That's how that works.
Yeah.
There is no, oh, everything goes and everything's beautiful. No, no, no. If you're not thinking about things in an ethical way, in a thoughtful way, in a sustainable way, people will inadvertently suffer.
Yeah.
And you will lack the progress that you actually think that you should be having as you're moving forward with technology. All the technology in the world has not ended up with us actually being able to do what? We still don't have clean water for everybody. We still don't have adequate health care for everybody.
Right.
We still don't have renewable energy for everybody. But we are moving at the speed of light with technology because we're thinking about it.
Thinking about,
at the pace. Of course, there are amazing innovations that are happening.
Yeah.
Are they getting the funding? There are amazing innovations that are happening to help resolve those issues.
Right.
But are they getting adequate funding? Where exactly is the money going? That's a whole nother conversation. And again, it's always going to be skewed. My hopes is that we come into a balance. And so that's why focusing on the children very young, not just from a prevention standpoint, but empowering the children to not only be consumers,
right,
but actually understand the technology that they're using.
Yeah.
And they're super smart because they understand it better than we do. Which a lot of adults argue about that. But I'm like, hold on for a second. We created the technology. These kids coming out the womb swiping iPads.
You ain't lying.
They understand this environment much better than we do because they're born into it. The goal is, are we listening? We are not. And so we are creating a platform where a child has very little in terms of a childhood because they're inundated with everything, so much more than even what we had to deal with. Now you got kids that are being influenced by so much violence and sex, as well as, you know, Teletubbies and Coco Melon, Gracie's Corner, right? You got all this stuff coming, and then they have to figure out, okay, you're telling me that I should be kind. You're telling me that I should be doing the right thing. You're telling me I should make better decisions. But you're not demonstrating that because I'm watching you, adults, and y'all don't know how to act. So how are you going to tell me? It looks like if I act in this way and I act violent, or I get rewarded for that.
It's funny you said that because my granddaughter, I'll never forget that. My oldest granddaughter, she told me the reason why she didn't have a Facebook page. She said, because y'all adults is crazy.
Yes. Yes.
She said that. I'll never forget when she told me that. She said, I don't have no Facebook page because y'all adult people, y'all is crazy.
That's what the kids tell me too. We talk about that. They talk about that all the time. They're like, Miss V, you know, it's funny that, you know, adults saying all this about us, but understand something. The exploitation of, in terms of how to get images of children, you know where that comes from? The majority of it? It's parents and adults that's posting all these pictures.
Oh, yeah. You see all that, you see all these grown people up there shaking their tail online. Everybody shaking their behind and showing their behind and their breasts. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's like,
and you see
crazy. People. And then you got all these women getting all these big out of shape behinds and breasts, and you know, and then these kids are looking at that. I seen one lady the other day online. It looked like she was wearing a diaper.
Yeah.
Because she had the butt job was so uneven and her legs were so skinny. And I said, that is not normal. And these kids, they don't understand. And, and I'm sure she had kids, she got kids, you know, and I'm like, come on now, this is terrible. This is terrible.
Even in terms of filters and the stuff that we do for fun. You know, kids nowadays, 13 years and younger, the most exploited children on the internet are 11 and younger. I don't think people realize that. Some sexual exploitation. And you have 12 and 13-year-olds that are now leveraging and doing something dangerous because they're mimicking all of the makeup and beauty stuff, and they're going to Sephora and they're doing hacks and they're putting all these toxic chemicals that's not meant for children's skin on their face, and they're doing all this stuff and they're emulating what they see. And the ideas in terms of what beauty is. What beauty is determined by your social. So what happens when the social environment, typically your culture. But when you have an internet, the internet is a global entity. So whatever's trending and making money at the time is what is perceived of beauty. All the challenges that we had before the internet is exasperated online.
Oh, yeah.
So now you got little people that they don't even know what a real body looks like or a real face looks like. Adults don't even know what real bodies look like.
Nope.
They don't even recognize that it's beauty and the differences, not looking like everybody else.
Trying to look the same. Yeah. I'm like, come on, man.
That it's completely skewed. And what I'm saying is this: I didn't give up on the adults.
Oh, yeah. I gave up on adults too.
So I focus on the children.
Yeah.
And how I leverage the adults is those that can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And those that can say, you know what, Veda, we can actually do this. And that's why, for me, we can't do things in silo. We have this attitude where it's all about me. It's all about this individualistic attitude.
Right.
We don't prosper as humans without us.
Right. We need each other.
We need each other. And so we keep having this monolithic way of thinking. It's so destructive. Look at what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. This is what you may not know it, but I'm just asking it just to put it out there. But you brought up the fact that people thinking, those who know how to hack are only in cyber and that thing, right? Those are only people who really truly know how to hack are people who work in cyber.
Right.
But here's the challenge that I have for people in the cybersecurity community. What are we doing? Because we haven't solved nothing in cyber the 30 years I've been in it. And so my question is, what we should be doing is be at the forefront of all of these things that are happening. All of these things where we're leveraging technology. There's several wars right now. There are so many issues in terms of which cybersecurity has a huge responsibility and obligation in terms of helping to minimize the risk of communities and critical infrastructure getting decimated and the impact that it has on the community.
Yeah, because
we have a responsibility. If we're leveraging technology, we got to think about ways on how we continue operations in the event of war and conflict, because you have the impact of what it has on society. And what you see on social media or that's flicking across your feed on your phone, understanding the conflicts and the wars that you see has a direct impact on you. And if you don't believe it, think about what happened in Ukraine. Think about what's been going on forever in the DRC. Think about what's happening over in the Middle East and Gaza. And think about the impact that it's having in our community. And think about the gas prices and the inflation. And think about the oil prices. And think about the loss of jobs. If you think that these things that are happening globally are just only impacting people globally, and you think that, if we just stay online and use technology and not think about the ramifications or the implications
that comes
of that
with
use, we will end up self-destructing even further. And that's not a movie. That's real talk.
That's true.
Of all the technology in the world, cancers have been increasing steadfast, and it has been killing people left and right. Breast cancer has increased all the way down to younger and younger and younger. Things that you would think with the advent of technology that we would be able to move past these things and these troubles in healthcare. As the United States, why are we seeing diseases and illnesses from that should have been extinct, should not even be seen right now with the so-called advent of technology? Why? Because we're not thinking about the impact of what we are doing. And so for me, with my world, from a cyber perspective, all of those different avenues, I keep coming back to the kids because they're the ones that have to deal with this mess. But we are no longer able to.
And that's the reason why I have this mental health and wellness podcast. I know everybody talking about all these other things, but they're not really talking about what's really going on, how's it impacting people's mental health, especially these kids, they taking in so much of this information, because we didn't have social media when we was coming up. We only saw we go to the store and get a newspaper and we read what's in the paper or saw the news every once in a while. Now we taking in all this information, like all this violence and people being killed and kids being killed, and
Exactly.
then you got all this other drama, and then it's just and people are making money off of it, and they don't care. They don't care about humanity no more. It's not they people don't. Everything is about money now. This money.
But young people do care.
Yeah, the
And,
young people do.
the young people do
We
care.
the
And
adults are the ones that need to be accountable.
the young people care. And
Yeah.
I can tell you that's one of the reasons why I decided on launching Global
Mm.
Cybersecurity Advisory Group, because I'm listening to the young people.
Yeah.
And this so-called quote unquote shortage of STEM professionals and can't find nobody in STEM and all this stuff that is very interesting to me, because it perpetuates a lot of other stuff. The reality is that there are so many young people, especially young people in rural and marginalized communities, that want to be able to solve and have fantastic ideas and can see things in terms of how to bring things back into balance. And so having Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group, having companies and corporations in cyber and academia be able to join us in this path of cyber sustainability, being able to help in terms of demonstrating with our own portfolio of services that these companies provide, that you can just take a smidgen and tailor it and be able, the little bit that you think you might be able to do, you can actually do even more by helping to build up the capacity in these communities, get these young people opportunities to have jobs, and truly be focused on the very community that's being impacted by these cyber attacks and these cyber threats. Because the majority of people that are impacted, that are losing their businesses, are small businesses, rural and marginalized communities. The majority of people that are really being impacted when there's a ransomware attack, or there's a ransomware attack on a local municipality or a county, and those services are stopped at months at a time, is the community.
Yeah.
They're the ones that's being impacted by it. And no one's saying hardly anything. It's just another little message that's sensationalized in the news, but we're not acting on it. We see it. Wow, that's messed up. Somebody need to do something about it. And my thing is, yeah, that is us. It's no magic person. We need to pay attention to that. And that's the purpose of Protect Us Kids. Protect Us Kids is trying to go to where with the kids, get the kids empowered. The kids are like, Ms. V, I want to get into cyber. How do I get a job? I hear that. How do I get a job? And how can I apply cyber to help my community? And I can see that with Protecting Us Online. And then they learn. And then I'm like, hey, there's an opportunity for you in cyber, even if you're not a technical person.
Right.
You don't have to be a highly technical person to be in this field. You just have to have the desire to want to understand how to protect things that are important, right? That are being leveraged in supporting of technology. And you have to be able to be inquisitive enough to understand, how can I protect those things that sustain my community?
Right.
Leveraging this technology, how can I protect that? And when you ask the how, that's when you start getting into all the different facets of cyber. That's not just technical. There's policy, governance, and strategy. And there's so many different other things that you can get into. And it's like getting these young people absorbed in that. And then even working with those companies, those cybersecurity companies that are still focused on the same regime, right? Of only focusing on one aspect. What I'm saying is, open your portfolio a little bit and pivot and focus on the community that's actually getting impacted. You can make a lot of money by doing it, if that's all you're concerned about.
Right.
My thing is, look, Crystal, I'm going on a tangent here.
No, but I know how you feel.
I understand that the way I think from a empathetic social community, because I'm a person of the community.
Right.
Point blank, hard stop. It's not how major corporations, and a lot of them, may be thinking.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine, rural and marginalized, but how do we make money? So the thing with me is, it's like showing, yes, you can still be profitable for a purpose.
Yeah.
And by showing that and demonstrating that, and saying, look, it is not, if anything, it's going to increase your bottom line. When you talk about being sustainable, and sustainability initiatives are everywhere now, it's not going away. It's more pressure.
Right.
They tend to focus on that from a financial standpoint. They tend to focus on sustainability from economic standpoint.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, because we leverage technology in support of those social and those economic and
Mm-hmm.
those governing community-based levels, we're leveraging technology.
Mm-hmm.
Cyber should be aligned to that. And
Yeah.
so we're focused very heavily in GCS is to make sure that we provide the methodology, the framework, and educate the
Mm-hmm.
community and educate the cybersecurity companies on what that means so
Mm-hmm.
that they can make more thoughtful decisions in terms of how they're providing their cyber products and services. And
Mm-hmm.
most importantly, being able to not only provide services, but empower the community so that
Yeah.
they can sustain themselves.
Yeah, we
That's
need a
the difference.
we need a balance. We need a balance.
We need a
It's
balance.
one-sided, you know, and that's the
Completely
sad part
one-sided.
about it, you know. And it's the same thing when I think about these major corporations like Amazon, you know. I noticed that, and like you said, we're always the product of a company for them to make money. Even Amazon, they have I noticed they open warehouses in every black community, the warehouses,
Yeah.
you know, and
Operations.
they hire all. I used to work for Amazon for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Back I left them in 2017. I worked in the warehouse, and I just noticed that every time they opened up, they built a warehouse. It was always in a black community, and they would hire anybody in the black community because they
Operations.
use us to run their business. You
Operations.
know, but the way they treat the employees inside the company was
Yep.
terrible.
Yep.
You know, and I said to myself, I would never, and here's the thing, I still, you know, I do buy things from Amazon, but they are the ones who are making money off of us. But they're
Mm-hmm.
not treating, and the way they treat their employees is just terrible. I mean, you know, a lot of people came out of there stressed out. You know, a lot of people end up going in the ambulance, leaving out of there because they want you. It's all about money. Everything is fast paced, fast paced,
Yep.
fast paced. But and then they say you have a voice, but technically you don't have a voice because if you open up your mouth, you know, then they want to let you go. You know, and it's just we've always been a product of these major companies of them making money off of us. But like you said, they're not there's no equal opportunity when it comes to, you know, marginalized communities. It's just terrible.
And that's why I decided to walk away from corporate. I don't, I've
Yeah.
been a public servant for the majority of my career. And
Yeah.
then, my agency sunsetted, meaning it
Mm-hmm.
went away. And so I ended up being in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
And that purpose and that focus is just that, right? Historically,
Mm-hmm.
we have always been a resource.
Yeah.
And that has not changed.
Nope. Not at all.
The environment has changed in terms of what it looks like,
Yeah.
but the strategy
It's still the
and the
same.
system is still very much the same. So
Pretty
when you talk
much.
about Amazon and operations, you see that in financial services as well.
Mm-hmm. They
Their
use it.
operations are in rural and marginalized communities.
Mm-hmm.
And you recruit the best of the best, and sometimes they're not so best, but it's about making sure that you churn.
Mm-hmm.
And then when there's something catastrophic that happens, operations hits the most.
Mm-hmm.
When there's
Yep.
any type of technology that can take over that process,
Yeah.
operations are hit the most, which means the people that are there are hit the most, which means that's the product of the community.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my thing is this, like I said, equitable access.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place for everybody.
Yeah. It
Absolutely.
sure
But
is.
my thing is how you go about doing that.
Right.
And withholding resources and education and
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, that's not the right way.
It's not.
I don't care how you market
And they
it
ain't
and make
giving
it
you no
work, and
opportunities.
it's not sustainable.
Nope.
It's not sustainable. One thing
Mm.
about humans that
That's why I left Amazon because after I mastered, I was in the what department was the name of it? ICQ department. And I mastered that department so well to the point that they would not let me leave out of that department.
Mhm.
They wanted to keep me there. And I was like, wait a minute, I've been here 3 years and y'all ain't gonna give me no promotion. I'm ready to move around. I don't want to just be in one position. I want to
Exactly.
promote me up to the next level. But no, they didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep me in there. I said, no, y'all ain't gonna be using me. I'm sorry.
But then you leave.
Yeah.
So then they lose that, right?
Then
And
they lose that. That's why I
so
left the
so
company. Well,
so why
I
not?
didn't leave. I got terminated because I spoke up. And
But why
technically,
not? But why not be sustainable
right.
in your operations and say, look, you're
Hmm.
super talented. You deserve a promotion. I
Right.
need you these new ones. Can you help us recruit people and train them up so we can get more people like you? And you
Right.
say, okay, and this is the process. And over a period of time, you train up a person, that person is doing your job and even better, which
Yep.
enables you to go and do and expand upon your knowledge. What is
Right.
wrong with that?
I know.
If
Yeah.
anything, that should be an invaluable asset in the company to be able to sustain. It's a heck of a lot more money to lay a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of people off. And I know
Mm-hmm.
layoffs are part of the process in a capitalistic society. It's
Right.
important for that. And I
Yeah.
recognize that. But what I'm saying is to truly be sustainable and to make sure you don't have unnecessary gaps and
Right.
unnecessary issues in your strategy
Mm-hmm.
is by training up from within, because
Right.
everyone knows that your most invaluable asset are your people,
Right.
even with the advent of technology, because you
Mm-hmm.
still need people to code. You still need people to know how to press the button. You
Yep.
still need people to be able to take care of the human things
That's
that
right.
honestly, I don't care how advanced we get in technology, you still gonna need somebody behind the scenes.
That's right.
Still
Yeah.
gonna need somebody, you're gonna need people to be able to understand what people in the community want. So
Mm-hmm.
train that person up and say, hey, this is a pathway for you to advance because it's going to help us make more money. It's
Yeah.
going to improve your quality of life. And it's going to
Mm-hmm.
have a fantastic impact on the community because
Mm-hmm.
that ecosystem is what's sustainable. So when
Yeah.
something
Mm-hmm.
does happen bad, guess what people do when they feel like they're valued and respected and they promote? They will go above and beyond for a company or organization that
Mm-hmm.
actually demonstrates that. They will
Mm-hmm.
be with you when stuff starts falling apart. A lot of
Yeah.
people will be like, you know what? No,
Yeah.
you we can make this happen because they actually believe in what it is that you're trying to do. And they
Mm-hmm.
see the benefit of what it has on the community.
But they
But
didn't want
instead,
they don't want to
we
do
don't
that
do
because
that.
they are intimidated by us. They don't want us to go to only but a certain level. And it's been like this for 400 years of they want to keep us at a certain level and that's it. And we can't get no further than that unless you own your own company. Other than that, if you work for somebody else, you might as well forget it because they ain't gonna let you get too much farther. And if they do, it's only gonna be one or two of us.
But that's but
Everybody
that's
else
why
gonna be white. It's gonna be two black people in there. The rest of them gonna be white.
but that's
And that,
why it's important for those two Black people that's in there
mm,
to actually understand that it is an it's like expected of you
yeah,
to actually pay it forward.
yeah.
Because what happens is the mental state of I got mine.
Mm-hmm.
Start having this mentality where you become even more worse than the oppressor. And it's like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. This
Yep.
is not going to work. See, you're in a position to actually help move the needle.
Yeah. But
You
see,
can
that's
do
the
it,
thing. We
and you
got
can do it in a way where you're
yeah.
not going to be, if you should be able to do this in a way where you can prove value to your
Mm-hmm.
executive leadership on moving that needle,
But they
right?
only the problem with our people is we only think about ourselves. That's the
That's
thing. We
why
not
that's
thinking about. I mean, it's the same thing in the Supreme Court. You got Clarence Thomas in there. He's an Uncle Tom. He ain't thinking about nobody, but he doing exactly what they want him to do. They got him there for that reason. And it's the same thing in corporate businesses and corporate companies. I mean, either you get one black person who gets to that certain level, and a lot of times they got there because they don't kick one of us underneath the bus or
mm-hmm,
sometimes,
mm-hmm.
and they, and then once they get there, see, they know how to, it's all about divide and conquer. And it's been like you said, this has been going on for years. It's divide and conquer. They get one or two of us to turn against all of us, and that's all they need.
But that's why it's so important for us to protect
Yeah.
our babies
Yeah.
and to instill in our young people and invest in our young people
Yeah. Yeah.
community, because nobody can do that for us but the community.
That's it.
I think that's where we're a little lost, because
Hmm.
we're expecting from somebody else to do this,
We
and
got
the
to do it
reality is
ourselves.
we got to do it, and we can because we
Hmm.
have in the past.
Yeah.
We've done it.
But the thing is, we need to
And
stick
there's a lot
together. The
of
biggest problem is we don't
but
stick together.
there are organizations that are led by us that are doing that. They don't
Right.
they don't get the recognition, they don't get the support, they
Right.
don't get any of that. And what I'm
Right.
saying is, instead of us talking about it,
We got to be about it.
why not?
That's
Because
right.
we put all of our talents to everything else,
Hmm.
expecting that it's gonna, and it's like, but why not?
Do it
Why
for ourselves.
why not invest in that and understand we need everybody?
That's true. Yeah.
But in our community, that's
Mhm.
our responsibility.
Yeah.
So why we need to protect I'm telling you, our children are just
Yeah.
letting in.
Yeah.
Of all the things, we are not paying attention. And that's what I'm hoping that with these young people,
Yeah.
that we will get them and still hold on to them and support them.
Right.
They progress.
Yeah.
Support them and get them to understand that your success is my success.
Mm-hmm.
Your success is your success.
Mm-hmm.
And there is plenty enough to go around.
That's right.
And understanding truly what the term successful means.
Mm-hmm.
It's not monetary.
Right.
It's not.
And that's where
You
we get
gotta
it
understand
confused.
what that is. Yes.
We get it confused. We think that success is all about money. Nope, it's not. It's
No,
money. Money is
no.
just a tool. Money is a tool for you to buy the things you like.
But it's
and
our
Right.
responsibility, Crystal. It's
Right.
our responsibility to show them the benefits of the value of what we're saying.
That's
because
right.
they're not seeing that. That's
Yeah.
why everything is instant gratification.
Yeah.
People want me to sit up here and go to school for all these years for something when I can go ahead and sell my behind and make them a whole bunch of money and be on OnlyFans and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Why are you expecting me to? What's the value of that?
Right.
If we can't demonstrate it
That's
and
true.
we can't show it and we can't walk the walk, how we expect our young people to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is that takes time. That means you got to take time.
You got to take the
time that you feel is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you're in these positions of authority, when you're in corporate, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I did a lot. And you know what? I did it because I had to do it.
Right.
We were very important to me. The community was very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But also my subject matter expertise is important.
That's right.
When you get in corporate in these organizations, they want to use you for one thing and neglect the other. Yep. And it's like, no. Yeah. If you want me to talk on DEI and all this other kind of stuff, right, which I honestly think is kind of weird because I actually think the people that are responsible and executives in the company should be speaking on it because you're talking about a system that we didn't even create and we're impacted on it. So why am I talking about this? But that's another conversation. Then you need to make sure I get equitable opportunity to talk about my technical acumen. You need to make sure I get equitable opportunity to be able to talk to everyone.
That's right.
Be able to have the same exposure and the same platform.
Don't just leave us out.
Because if that is demonstrated,
right,
then our young people will see value of wanting to do the things that we're telling them that is so important because we're actually demonstrating that. And you know what? When you win an organization that's not doing that, you have options.
Yeah.
There's enough of us that are in very high places that could take a smidgen of our time and our resource to do a little bit in terms of showing another young person what that means.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot. It just takes time.
That's
and
all
so
it
for
takes.
me, for me, it's like, yeah, when you and I talking about this, because we get it. But a lot of this stuff that's happening is because we choose to be comfortable with just thinking about self.
Yep. It's become the norm. It's become the norm.
We put these artificial barriers of colorism, classism, and neglect our community in the process and feel comfortable in doing so because we don't see the benefit because the majority is saying that's that. But guess what? I can tell you right now, every corporation is not that way. And every corporation is not run by one entity anymore.
Right.
And things are changing. And what I'm saying is we need to understand that change and we need to support our young people in every asset of that. I'm trying my best. I'm in the world of cybersecurity. Anybody that knows me in this space in the Washington, D.C. metro, I've been in this for a long time. Everybody knows about Protect Us Kids. That is, I was working presidential appointee. I'm working in the financial services. And they still know about Protect Us Kids because I'm purpose driven. And guess what? That's my time.
Yeah.
I could be taking a sabbatical and riding, climbing mountains and scuba diving or whatever. I take my sabbatical, which is what I'm on, and I'm coming up of developing something that can sustain itself so that these young people can have opportunities.
Right.
When I say young people, I'm not just talking about kids. I'm talking about the young professionals.
Right.
Who doing just what you said, what you were saying, trying their best to be able to demonstrate their brilliance and being used and stepped on so others can go and do. It's like, hold on for a second. Okay, let's create platforms and opportunities for them so that they can contribute to humanity, to helping us collectively.
Yeah.
So when it all comes down to all this stuff about racism and class, all that stuff don't matter. The pandemic, if you alive during this time frame, pandemic should have taught everybody that.
It sure should.
None of that stuff matters. None of that stuff matters.
Yeah.
You're looking around and trying to figure out, can this person survive? Are we going to be safe? How can we protect our health?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody looking at it from the fact of, oh, well, you don't have money. No, 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 no. Everybody's getting sick. So when
Mm-hmm.
you see that, it's like, understand the things that are important. Our young people are the most important. Our young
Mm-hmm.
people are the most important. Our young people are the most important. And we have a responsibility within our community. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to wait for somebody to do something.
Right.
We are the
We could
foundation
do it
of
ourselves.
so much. That's
That's
the
right.
reason we were brought over here in the first place. It's
Mm-hmm.
because they saw us making rice and growing rice and crops how to look like dust.
Mm-hmm.
I said, how the heck could they figure it out? And we were brought here as a resource
Mm-hmm.
because we already have the skills and the
We
competencies.
already have the skills. We could do
But
it ourselves.
but Crystal, our young people don't believe that, and
Yep.
that's on us
Mm-hmm.
to get them to see that. That's
Yep.
all I'm saying. Like we don't
Yep.
have to wait for anybody.
That's right.
We don't have Jim Crow anymore. God help us.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of going backwards and stuff. We don't have that anymore.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we have an obligation,
Yep.
and we should feel empowered,
Mm-hmm.
meaning adults, those of us,
Right.
to be able to show these young people their value. Because the reason why you see them shaking their ass and they
Mm-hmm.
on the internet and they doing and OnlyFans and all that,
Because they see the adults doing it.
because they get value.
Yeah.
That's value from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're telling me what I look like is more valuable than what I got up here. Why am
Yeah.
I going to school when I can make money hand over fist doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yep.
is the value?
Yep.
I'm going to do what I can to survive. I
Yep.
hear you. That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta take care of me and mine. And
Mm-hmm.
that ain't helping me none, right? And so when you see that, it's like, but this person doesn't even understand
Right.
who they are and the value of what they actually
They
bring
are.
to the table.
Yeah.
That's even more valuable
Mm-hmm.
than a 5 minute or 2 45-second clip
Mm-hmm.
that's not even real.
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
our responsibility to teach them that.
Yep.
That's our responsibility. And God willing, I'm gonna do everything I can to make
Yeah.
sure
That's
that
right.
we all understand that it's our
It's
responsibility.
our responsibility. That's right.
We're supposed to do
Yeah.
this, keep waiting on somebody to do it, and we don't
Yep.
have to. We have
Yep.
everything that we need.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is we the most compassionate, sensitive, loving people.
Mm-hmm.
We do for everybody before we do for self.
Yep.
And what is happening
Yep.
is, unfortunately, psychologically, it has had a huge impact on us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel like it's so important for us to be able to communicate with each other by any means necessary.
Yeah, that communication is very important.
Because
Yeah.
how are we going to be able to work with others when we can't hardly communicate with us?
Exactly.
We got to understand us so that we can be able to help everybody. Because
Yeah.
again, you can't live in this world just thinking about self
Mm-hmm.
or just your own community, because we all share the same risk. We all are humans.
That's right.
But
And
at
this
the same
impacts
token,
and this impacts all of us.
it impacts all of us. But from
Yeah.
a cultural standpoint,
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
cultural standpoint,
Yeah.
we're responsible for our community
Mm-hmm.
so that our
Yeah.
community can be able to have that same understanding that it's
Mm-hmm.
all about us,
Yeah.
meaning everyone. But first, you got to take care of us.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm hoping that I'm able to continue with Protect Us Kids. I got kids from all over the world that's participating in Protect Us Kids. And I tell them all the time how much I love them. I tell them, looking at me, smiling, I said I do, because all of y'all are brilliant. And the fact that you have character to volunteer your precious time early in the morning and late at night, depending on where you live, because you see the importance of being able to help your peers.
They see the value in it.
And you see the value in it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you
Yeah.
nurture that, because they're the ones that's going to be making the decisions. God help us. We need them to make their decisions, because we are failing miserably right now.
We
We
are
are failing. We are the idea that you can just completely not have any type of anything and these kids are suffering and losing life.
Yeah.
That's strange to me.
It is strange.
And we should be like, So I want these kids to not think that that's the norm, and that they can actually be able to prosper and they can be able to change this world. And that's a futuristic hug and tree type of attitude. That's life. Life is meant to be a beautiful experience. There's pain in it, There's
Mm-hmm.
trauma, but life is not supposed, the whole thing is not supposed to be catastrophic.
Right.
So there's
Exactly.
something that's wrong. And these
Yeah.
young people, that's why children are so beautiful, because they show you the beauty before
Mm-hmm.
they get tainted.
Mm-hmm.
Children come in the world, they happy, they're happy.
Yeah.
And then all of life and
Yeah.
all outside stuff impacts how they see
Impact.
and perceive
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
that's why you have people doing all type of other stuff and mental health issues. But
Mm-hmm.
children coming in the world, they just need that support system. And that's what I'm hoping we can provide with Protect Us Kids. And I'm hoping that companies can understand the
Right.
importance of cybersecurity sustainability and
Mm-hmm.
sustainable communities and how we can apply cyber,
Mm-hmm.
protecting the very technology that we're innovating on and understanding the impact that it has on these communities so we can help support our young
Right.
people and our
Right.
seniors and everybody else that fits into that paradigm.
Right.
I think them to see that and seeing the value in that. And if that
Mm-hmm.
means that it has to be in terms of how much money they can make back, that's okay. Because we can
Mm-hmm.
have profit for purpose.
Yeah,
But it
you
has to
sure
be
could.
balanced. It
Yeah.
has to be
It's
balanced.
got to be balanced. Yeah. It can't
Exactly.
just be one-sided, you know?
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
you just it can't just all be about profit and that's it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, but anyway, this was a good conversation, Vita. Oh my God, you boy, I can't wait for this episode to air. I tell you that.
Yeah, I know I kind of went on a tangent. Sorry.
Yeah,
It happens like that sometimes.
yeah,
I feel very
yeah. You
I
what
feel
it
very
is.
strongly about this.
That's what I was gonna say. You have that, and that's when you can tell when a person has a passion for something because you know it exuberates and you just you just get you can feel how you feel about this whole thing. You know what I mean? So I'm just glad that we had this conversation. I can't wait for this to air.
Well, hopefully we can get companies and organizations and academia to
Yeah,
actually learn more about Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group.
yeah,
Because like anything, we need to be able to provide get these companies so they can provide services to the rural and
services,
marginalized
right?
communities. Right.
Yeah,
And so those who are interested in being members, they can go look up Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group.
okay,
Those who wish to volunteer, we always looking for, help and protect us kids. We have our first virtual conference in September.
okay,
And I just need people that are in the space that
hmm,
have an understanding, and even people who are not in cyber,
right,
are in very different, roles and responsibilities across sectors.
right,
I need them too because they're leveraging the technology. And
right,
so their thought leadership and on how we should move forward, we need their support within GCS as well. So I
yeah.
appreciate the opportunity, Crystal, and thank you for letting me have an opportunity to lend my little voice. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on. And you got any social media handles where people can reach out to you too? Real quick?
I do. I'm of course on LinkedIn, so you can find Veda T Woods on LinkedIn. You
Okay.
can find at Protect Us Kids on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, as well as I'm probably forgetting something. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I think those are the only ones that we have. And I think,
Okay.
and Twitter. We're on Twitter, and
Okay. And what's the
um,
handle again
it's
for
at Protect Us Kids.
kids? And then that's the same thing through all of your
That's all for Protect Us Kids.
okay.
For Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group,
Yeah.
it is at uh GCS Advisory Group.
Okay.
And you can LinkedIn, you could just put Global Cybersecurity Advisory Group, and then it
Okay.
will just come up in terms of you'll see the company. And
Okay.
then on the other ones is at Cyber Sustain. That's
Hmm.
CYBERSUSTAIN.
Okay.
Cyber Sustain for Twitter, but it's usually just Global at Cyber Advisory Group. You'll see that as well.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Vita.
If
And
all else fails, just Google.
okay, just Google and okay.
Don't come up, just Google.
All right. And make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. It don't cost you nothing to hit that button. I don't want you to just subscribe. I want you to watch the episode too, because viewing the episode is more important than subscribing because you're getting so much information out of the platform. And until then, we'll see you next week for another episode of Let's Talk About This. And Vita, thanks again for stopping
Thank
in
you. It was
and
a lot of fun.
sharing
Thank
so
you.
much valuable information. And until then, we'll talk to you later.